I think what ends up happening with the Childfree Midlife crisis is you have to rethink what's important to you. So then it becomes a question of legacy for a lot of people. So I've been going through this a lot with myself, and we're working through Childfree Wealth. We're serving a lot of folks. There's about 50 million child-free people in the U.S. If we do things very well, we can serve 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000. I don't know, very few. But you know what? That can be my legacy of creating a financial planning process for child-free folks. And that really is why I'm working more than the money. I'm starting my own business. You actually start your own business. You make very little, okay? That's just kind of part of it. And we're actually building a company where we're trying to hire people where getting the money is not the primary thing. It's more the mission.
Welcome to the Childfree Wealth Podcast, hosted by Bri and Dr. J, certified financial planner. Here we discuss life and finances as it relates to being child-free. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please consult your advisor before implementing any ideas heard on this podcast.
Hey, Childfree Wealth listeners. This week we are going to talk about one of my favorite topics to talk about, and I actually do mean favorite, and it's the child-free midlife crisis. Now, I don't want you to think about this as a certain age. It can happen to anyone at any age. And it's really what happens when you hit your personal, professional, and financial goals. And then you're like, now what? Have you seen this, Bri, or have you experienced it? Am I crazy on this concept?
I have definitely seen this with the different clients. They get to a certain point and they're like, I've done all these things, but I don't know where to go from here. And can you help with that? Yes, we can help with it to a point and ask questions, but that's also going to take a lot of internal reflection to kind of figure out what is next for you, because our answers might be different than yours.
Yeah, and by the way, with clients, we end up holding up a mirror and working through it with them. But I think the hard part of this is the standard life plan says you go to school, you get married, you buy a house, you have kids, work 25 years, pass on my next generation. And if you hit your personal and professional financial goals as a parent, you just shift your goals to your kids. And I'm not going to say that's right or wrong. There's a whole separate discussion on that. But that's the natural thing. And the difference for child-free folks is we hit that and we're like, well, what's next in life? What's our legacy? What's our impact? What's that? Like big, hard questions. We're talking about, on the Maslow's hierarchy needs, like self-actualization and all that. I mean, it's crazy stuff. And I hit this, a little before 40, and I had done all the great goals, and my wife and I embraced the Garden of Rose. We said, all right, she'll be the rose now. And I had to try to find myself, and actually ended up running a maple syrup farm for a while and selling stuff on eBay and Amazon and just running a tractor and doing weird things. And I did that because I had no clue what I wanted to do. And I had somebody ask you, what is a dude with a PhD doing selling stuff randomly online? I'm like, well, because I got to make some money, but I don't know what I want to do with the rest of my life. Because I've always been a goal-driven person, and now you hit the goals. It's like the dog that caught the car, now what? And I think the hard part of this is there's not, I don't know, at least I haven't found a great, here's the next step guide that, talks about what to do next. I joke with clients. I'll ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? But I don't know. Nobody's ever asked me that. So Bri, what's your advice when you kind of dig into this? Because you're much better at the work-life balance than I am.
Yeah, but that was not a result of anything about hitting a crisis. It was a result of trauma. The way I came about that was just very different.
All right, so let me tell you how I work through this with clients. The first step is we go through all their finances and go, you're okay. And now, by the way, they usually fight because they're like, no, I'm not. Well, what if this? And what if, the world comes to an end? Or what if, I'm like, yeah, if the world comes to an end, we got bigger problems in your finances. But we find a place where they're stable. And then we go, all right, now what do you want to do? Now, we did an episode on I'll Make You Quit Your Job as one of our top listened to episodes, because that literally is where we're getting to at this point. You done it, what's next? And I often talk about it as an encore career. You kind of take a bow, take a curtain call, and then pick out your next thing in life. But I think part of the problem is for many of us, we are following a path that the 18-year-old version of us, the stupid version of us, 3 years ago for you, Bri, but for the rest of us, that was 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever. But the 18-year-old version of us picked where we went to school, picked our job, picked what we were going to do, and we're still doing it. And we get so stuck in, you got to keep doing it. I had somebody, I went to school to be a nurse. Good. Did you enjoy nursing? Yeah, but I'm getting tired of it. Okay, let's change it. Well, but I went to school to be a nurse. I'm like, no, we have to challenge this, because if you hit this at 30, 40, whatever it is, you got 40 or 50 years left of your life. Do you want to keep doing the stuff you don't enjoy for the rest of your life?
With that, how do you, if you're a soloist, it's much easier, I think, when I see in couples, for couples to know when the other person is hit it and push them. But as a soloist, how do you identify when you've hit that and really take the jump versus just sitting in it? And
it's kind of like, I've done it, and then you're just kind of going through the motions. By the way, yes, there's a measure of privilege here that, yes, you can take another career and do that. You have to be in a decent financial place to do that. Remember, but I said you hit your personal, professional, financial goals. You've hit the goals. What do I do next? And I think people are not great at judging themselves. Let's just call that out. I've been reading a lot lately on the spotlight effect, which is this concept that we think people think about us a lot more than they do. The reality check is everybody's in their own little world. Yes, the internet's amplified it, but most people don't care about you. Throughout the day, they're not thinking about you. But we have this internal monologue that's running that says it. And I think most people also realize something's not right, but then they go, well, can I change it? So we, when we work with clients, we're often holding up a mirror to them and going, here's what you say you want. Here's what you're doing. Let's go and shift this. So I had somebody recently, they wanted to move to another area. I'm like, cool, let's do it. And they're like, well, I can't. Why not? Well, I have X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, those are all excuses. Let's get past that. Well, I can't afford it. No, you can't. I'm your planner. I'm your Childfree Wealth specialist here. I'm helping you. And I'm like, you're good. And then their head explodes. Because they're like, wait, I can't? And I think that when you hit the Childfree midlife crisis, you might need somebody from the outside to kind of give you that kick in the butt. So if you're a soloist, it might be somebody outside. If it's a couple, often we get in the middle couples, where, we'll see the gardener and the rose, and the gardener knows when the rose needs to do something, but they can't see it. And sometimes we, as the third party, just go, listen, you just said this, do this. And it's, there's actually a thing in financial planning, they call it giving permission. We're giving people permission to change and do something different. And I think the culture and everything else pushes us to stay where we're at.
that's a good point there of culture telling you that you need to stay where you're at. Because a lot of us have grown up where you do something, you commit to it for years and years and years. And if you change it, it's frowned upon. And people will say that person can't hold a job, or they're always doing different things, and kind of like those negative attitudes, which none of that might be true. It's just whatever you were doing wasn't right for you. And that's okay to change those. But there's still those stereotypes out there saying that, well, if you change and make different choices that are better for you and better for your happiness, they're not right, quote unquote, according to society.
Yeah, and we have a whole episode on money guilt that goes into a lot of this. I think this is where, when you hit the Childfree midlife crisis, the voices in your head get really loud. They're kind of like, you did all this, you got to keep doing it. Or like, I had somebody else, they're moving up the executive ladder, had an opportunity for another position. And I'm like, all right, you don't need that money financially. And they said, well, but that would be a higher salary. I'm like, yes, it would. You don't need it because you're trying to die with zero. They said, yeah, but how can I pass that up? Real simple. You say no. And by the way, that's where people are like, what? Like, if you're at the Childfree midlife crisis, when it comes to jobs, I want you to ask the question, what would you do for free? And then, by the way, get paid for it. If you wouldn't take that promotion to do the job for free, don't take it. And yeah, but it messes with people's heads.
Yeah, it does. And I think it's because we're told to never do anything for free, unless it's like volunteer work for a charity. We're doing it to help somebody, but we can often forget that it's okay. We're not telling you to literally do the job for free. We're telling you should enjoy it, that you'd want to do it regardless.
Yeah, and by the way, if the answer is you want to retire and sit on a beach, do it. But then what? People say, I want to retire. I go, well, you know what you're retiring from. What do you want to retire to? Childfree folks tend to dim down versus retire, but whatever it is. You want to go open the cupcake shop, open the cupcake shop. But here's the problem. I think, Bri, you and I both suffer from being overachievers a little bit. Is that fair?
Yes. I don't like when he pokes this button, but I know it's a button that needs to be poked.
The fun of being overachievers is we all always want the gold star. Yeah, my parents taught me, if you're going to do anything, be the best at it. That messes with my head all the time. Because when you hit the Childfree midlife crisis, you can actually stop chasing the stars and being the overachiever. How are you going to do that, Bri?
I think I don't know. It's hard for me. I have a lot of things like I want to do. Like I could be out hiking all day. I could be, working out a lot. I like having time to just go do workouts and not have to worry about rushing through them. I love swimming, but just like I'll use this example from recently. So I was out helping my sibling farm and I was driving grain cart and I completely overshot the truck and just shot grain out the other side. If you've never been on a farm, you have the grain cart, which is what you put the corn into from the combine. The combine harvests it, and then you put it in the grain cart, and then you drive it to the semi and load it into the hopper trailer. Well, you have to line it up perfectly to get all in there, and grain carts, the specific one that my family has, holds 60,000 pounds of corn, and it can very, very quickly get all of that out and into the tractor. I overshot it and made a huge mess on the ground. And in my mind, that overachieving mind is like, no, I'm not good at this. I can't ever do this because I made a mess. Like it happens to everybody. You see corn spilled everywhere. It could be fixed, but that is a much simpler solution than when it comes to our overall life. Like I think those small things can add up to our entire life as well. Am I making any sense to you?
You're making sense because here's the problem. It's how pervasive goals and getting the gold star becomes in our life. And by the way, I see this in relationships. People are like, I have to have the best relationship with my spouse. No, you don't. You have to have one you enjoy. And by the way, it's going to have good, bad, and ugly. The best I've ever heard about marriage is, I still love you. I don't like you right now. I'm like, all right, that's fair. Like, seriously, we all have those moments. Doesn't mean we're failing in our marriage, but we have these things that we take as failures. And that's the problem with this Childfree Midlife crisis. We're like, but if I'm not doing my job, A, who am I? And B, what's my goals? And C, there's no script for that. And for the people that are overachievers, which by the way is a lot of people, I have to shift them to another goal, something. For people that are less goal driven, which is very rare. I had somebody for my book who was embracing fire in his mid-40s and literally was going to take his time and just do gaming full time, and he was good without any more goals. I'm jealous of him because I would love to do that too. I just can't. I can take one day a week and do fun stuff. By the second day on a weekend, I'm back to work. And I have to reprogram that, and I have to put it in a different direction. And the hard part there,
hobby thing.
No, that was one of our last episodes, trying to find a hobby. But I think the hard part is, if I find a hobby, I want to be the best at it again. If you're going to hike, you're doing times and biking harder things. Come on.
Back of the pack. No, I'm not. I really don't do it for that, because if you're setting out to make a record time for a hike, you're missing all the things around you. So for me, I just want to talk to everybody. That's my thing. I just want to talk to everybody I'm with and see the gorgeous views. I'm not trying.
By the way, talking to everybody on a hike is my seventh circle of hell, I think. But
that's
fair.
Between
us. I think what ends up happening with the Childfree Midlife crisis is you have to rethink what's important to you. So then it becomes a question of legacy for a lot of people. So I've been going through this a lot with myself, and we're working through Childfree Wealth. We're serving a lot of folks. There's about 50 million child-free people in the U.S. If we do things very well, we can serve 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000. I don't know. Very few out of that. But you know what? That can be my legacy of creating a financial planning process for child-free folks. And that really is why I'm working more than the money. I'm starting my own business. You actually start your own business. You make very little, okay? That's just kind of part of it. And we're actually building a company where we're trying to hire people where getting the money is not the primary thing. It's more the mission and the mission-driven and the focus on helping people. And that's a completely different way of thinking. But not everybody's there. And the hard part is all those voices in our head say, well, but you could make more money if, or you could do this. But if you're trying to die with zero, that money's worthless.
That is very true. And I think there's a bit of privilege that comes with the ability to do things and not have to worry about the money that comes with it. We just need to flat out acknowledge that.
Absolutely. I think the hard part there is we're trying to answer the tough life questions. What's the meaning of life? What are we doing? What do we enjoy? What makes us happy? I talk about recondoing your life, getting rid of the things that don't bring you joy and doing more of the things that you do enjoy. But people don't even stop and ask that question. Here's some tools. One of the tools I like using with my clients, and I'm not going to ask Bri these questions publicly because they're embarrassing, is actually there's
not embarrassing questions. You can ask them to me.
You want me to ask them?
Sure, I'll answer them. I will answer them as as much as I'm publicly comfortable with.
All right. I'm going to put Bri through an exercise. You can watch this, and we'll see where it's going to go. So there's 3 life questions we like to ask. They come from George Kinder. And the first question is, imagine that you have all the money you need for now and in the future. What would you do with your life? Dream big, kind of, what would you do if you could do anything and money didn't matter?
Yeah, I would be traveling a lot more. I would spend the spring and the fall, like planting and harvest season back with my sibling, helping them, because I think that's really fun. And just going around seeing different parts of the world that I've always wanted to see. I would take my friends with me. I've got a couple friends, and we have talked about this, my wife and I, is at a certain point, we would like to be able to pay to take friends with us on vacations. And just doing that would be a ton of fun for me, because I love being with people. So I want to go with them different places and just really prioritize my family and my friends and those relationships and seeing and learning new things.
Okay. So now I take away that money. You've got the money you've got now. You go to your doctor, and the doctor says, hey, I'm sorry, but you only have 5 years left to live. What would you do?
I would probably continue to work just a little bit, just to give me some sort of structure to my time. I would still definitely prioritize family. I would likely move and no longer be living where I'm living, or at least not full time anyway. Be kind of living in different places and just spending. I would not work any of the planting or the harvest season. I think in my ideal life, I just don't work then anyway. I would much rather be out in the fields and the plains, because I think that's just fun. And I've always loved that, but I've never really talked about that before. And just, I got some kiddos in my life that I love, and I would love to be able to go to their concerts and see those things and see their singing, even though we all know children singing is not that great, but it's so cute to watch, and their soccer games. Going to things like that would be really important for me.
So the third question is, you go to the doctor, and he says, sorry, I made a mistake. You've got 24 hours to live. The question is, what do you regret? What did you not get to do? What did you not get to be?
Mm-hmm. I think I would regret not spending as much time with people important to me, because I prioritize them quite a bit, but I still haven't spent the time that I want to spend with them. And probably regret not having, like, God dang, I almost be in tears with this one. Probably regret not having like a wedding party and have everybody together.
So in light of those 3 questions, what do you need to do differently today?
I did not think I would actually be this emotional. I will probably schedule the wedding party.
Okay. By the way, don't forget to invite me. Now, by the way, we've used these questions with clients all the time. It's real simple. You got all the money in the world, 5 years to live, 24 hours. And then I ask a 4th question, which is, okay, what do you need to change? And for everyone listening, if you haven't checked our YouTube, you need to watch Bri's reactions. You need to actually go watch the video on this, because it's a roller coaster. And it's the tough questions in life. Those are the questions that will help you understand what you need to do for the future. What I just heard out of Bri, and this is my interpretation, so just go with it, is we need to get her more time with her family and the people that matter to her.
Yeah. We've had multiple conversations about that too, and like how important that is to me.
Yeah. And by the way, your answers might be that. It might be something completely different. Mm-hmm. I've asked the questions. So one of the interesting ones, and if you're listening to this, you might want to just pause and journal your answers and work through this. If you got a couple, you can actually each do the questions individually, and then you can do them together. I've had a lot of people. It's really interesting. When I go to, what would you do if you had 5 years left? I actually see them like sit back, relax, and like a weight came off their shoulders, like, all right, cool. Now I can do some fun stuff. And I'm like, what? Like, I just essentially killed you off, and you're excited about that. That tells me what they're living right now is bothering them that much. By the way, these questions, like, when you use them, you'll see. It's hard. And then when you ask the question about, well, what should you change now? 2 things will happen. Either people will go, damn it, I need to fill in the blank, do the wedding ceremony or something. Or the other one is, oh, I need to earn more money. And I'm like, where the heck did that come from? Like, that was nothing on your list. And what it is that's a defense mechanism about not making the changes they actually need to make. I think the hard part is you need, in this child-free midlife crisis, you need kind of a kick in the butt. For me, I was on a tractor, got a text from a old friend from high school that one of our friends we grew up with had died of cancer. And I was early 40s, and the first friend that dies from high school of cancer, like, boy, did that hit me. I was like, well, I guess I need to do something different. And I figured out I actually, rather than worry about my goals, I could just help other people get to their goals. And I do enjoy that. I truly do. Bri knows I actually probably dig in too much. You know, our clients, I intentionally have them meet with us once a month because I can only handle so much. My employees, my staff, Bri, she gets it every day. So like we get constant growth, constant pushing towards your goals. It's probably too much. But that was my aha. I have a feeling, by the way, Bri, you might be looking back at this podcast as your aha.
Maybe, yeah. I've like talked about doing the wedding party, but just, and I have family members who are like, hey, we'll host, we'll like set it up, follow up. So probably should just call them and say, yeah, let's schedule it.
It's interesting. If you do the exercise yourself, you almost can't lie to yourself in it. And that's why, by the way, having a friend to go through it with you is great. Or, you know, if you want, we can help you through it, whatever it is. But I think that child-free midlife crisis, people like, reality check is they need to make a change probably 5 years ago, but today's just the day they're doing it. Mm-hmm. And then what will happen is after you do that, you'll be freed up for something else. Like, oh, I want to go open my cupcake shop. You open the cupcake shop, run it for a couple of years, and then you're like, nope, what I really want to do, this is my type of job, not yours. During the summer, you go into the woods and sit in a fire tower and just watch for fires for a summer. You, your books, and just hang out. Like, sounds awesome. Bri says that sounds great, terrible.
I'd do it for a day, but that's about it. But there'd be like fire happening.
No, but like, let's do something completely different to allow you to do that. The other trick on this one, I love, by the way, in groups, great question. You say, hey, if you could do any job in the world and doesn't matter what you get paid, what would you do? And people come all the things. I want to be a boat captain. What would you be, Bri?
I want to like have a foundation to help people pay for swimming lessons and learn how to swim.
All right. She's going to open her foundation. I'm going to be like Captain Leon below deck. I'm going to, be the crotchety old man running the boat. The best answer I ever heard was, I want to be the bartender at the swim up bar. I'm like, that's a pretty good job, But then what you ask in the party is you say, okay, so why aren't you doing it now?
That messes with people.
By the way, this is why I don't get invited to parties, because I actually will ask this question at a party. And like the whole like vibe of the room starts dying down. And I'm like, do you not want to have real conversations? I'm an introvert. We don't care about small talk, but we'll have deep conversations. Like, let's go. And people are like, I don't know. And then they'll start throwing out excuses, whatever else. And I'm like, well, if that's the life you want to live, let's go do it. That's the opportunity for the child-free midlife crisis. So if you actually hit your financial goal, the finance doesn't matter. If you want to go open a foundation and save seals, I don't know, I'm making it up, I'm going to the next foundation, like, you can, or do whatever what matters to you. And by the way, it doesn't have to be a huge impact. You don't have to like change the world. You could just travel the world. You don't have to write the next great novel, but you can. You need to figure out what matters to you. Now, the fun one of this one, when I dig into the child-free midlife crisis, I often find people have like childhood kind of like, I wish I was. I was like, well, let's go do that. Yeah, I wanted to be an astronaut, a little old and fat to do that, but you can, sometimes the answer is you can. By the way, I actually had somebody point out there actually is that now an adult space camp. I'm like, I'm kind of there.
You gotta sign up for it.
Whatever it is, you could try something and then go, nope, I don't want to do that. I want to do something else. There's anything you can do, but you need to get out of the slump. You need that royal kick in the butt to do it. Now, by the way, that is one of my favorite things to do to people. Feel free, if you need a good kick, I'm happy to do that one. I try to talk about balance between patting you on the back, kicking in the butt. The kick in the butt's a fun one. But like,
he enjoys it a lot.
Okay, do I push them in their direction or in my direction?
You push them in the direction they need to go. Yeah.
And by the way, it's different for every client. Mm-hmm. I just hold up a mirror. I'm like, you said you want this. Let's go do that. And then they're like, well, no, I didn't really mean I really want to do that. By the way, now I'm going to be following up with Bri on to make sure she's actually getting her party done. I'm not kidding. Like, Bri knows. I literally will ask her about this next week.
Yeah.
Right? And she did it publicly on a podcast. All right. Like, but this is what happens. And what we need is that gentle nudge or that kick in the butt to do it, to figure out what the next 40 years of our life are going to look like. Don't just stay in the child-free midlife crisis. Do something.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a rating or review. We'd love to keep the conversation going. Follow Childfree Wealth on social media or email us at podcast@childfreewealth.com. If you're interested in working together, book a free consultation call by visiting our website, childfreewealth.com. We'll see you next week.